The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for part 2 of our summer webinar series focused on helping you better master your financial business intelligence. My name is Brett Robinson. I'm with CXO Software, coming to you from the lovely city of Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm excited to be joined by our featured guest today, Mr. Simon Watts of M&G Investments out of London. Today we're going to focus on something every single one of us deal with on a daily basis, and that would be choices. Whether we're shopping for new cars, considering what smartphones to upgrade to, trying to decide what cable and internet package to choose from. Every day we're constantly making choices to pick one thing from a multitude of available options. Sometimes those choices are quite easy, and sometimes they can be difficult because we're not just quite as knowledgeable about the various options as we'd like to be. And that's often the case when it comes to more complex choices, such as our topic today, things like software for financial business intelligence. Now, there's a number of considerations that go into choices like that, and today we're going to be looking at how M&G Investments approach that decision from their aspect. So to give you a brief start of who we are at CXO, we were founded a little over 10 years ago in Utrecht, Netherlands. Since then, we have opened up a second headquarters here in Atlanta, Georgia, to service our United States region. We were founded by a team of EPM specialists that were working with a lot of large enterprise companies on their EPM projects and consulting. And time and time again, they kept finding that there was a significant need in the market for better reporting capabilities. So we'd have companies with large, expensive, expansive EPM systems, but they were still relying on some old school Excel processes that were extremely intensive, extremely had a lot of manual labor involved, and were quite error prone. And so what the founders of CXO were focusing to do was to offer just a better all-around solution for financial reporting, EPM reporting, financial data and financial business intelligence. So we have enjoyed the ability to work with M&G Investments in London, and that's where I will lead into Mr. Simon Watts here. I had the pleasure of meeting Simon a few months back down at Kscope, the Oracle user group conference down in Orlando, and coming back from that, I was able to speak with him a little bit and was extremely excited that he was willing to participate and join us here for this webinar to present their case and their journey for finding the right tools, the right software for their financial reporting, financial data, and dashboarding, visualizations, all the good keywords. So on that note, I will introduce Simon, and I'm going to hand the screen over to him. Simon. As soon as I hand the screen over.
Hi, everybody. My name's Simon Watts. Okay, you've been made the presenter. When ready, show my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Hopefully, yes.
Yep.
Brett, is everything all right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so just to say, that picture of me is probably quite an old picture. I look a lot older and rougher now, so hopefully I don't think I look like that still. All right, so my name is Simon Watts, and I'm going to present on report versus dashboard versus visualization, a customer journey to discover the right tool for the right job. A little bit about myself. So I've been working for M&G for about 7.5 years at the moment, and my background is Oracle Hyperion for the last 15 years. And if you see this picture in front of you, basically I'm part of the FSC team in the middle, and you can see me right at the very back on the right-hand side. We're currently part of IT, but when this presentation was made, we were actually part of finance, and we have been merged together with M&G, with Prudential, and we've now become M&G Prudential, and we're in the process of demerging from the bigger Prudential group. So this slide can tell you quite a bit. M&G is one of the UK's largest and long-established investment houses. We've got more than 80 years of experience, and we're currently managing around about £281 billion of customer assets. Our finance department is approximately 140 users, and we do stat and reg FP&A. We've got finance business partners, and they deal with all aspects of the business. The team that I'm in is currently 10 people, give or take, but we've had a whole bunch added to us from the Prudential side. So our team is ever growing. So let's have a look. One of the things that we tried to define up front before we embarked on this journey was what's the difference between a report, a dashboard, and a visualization. So if you look at the left-hand side, reports are usually static. They contain management information. They come out regularly, and they can be ad hoc. They're printed or they're emailed. They're varying levels of detail, multiple pages. Dashboards are semi-interactive with summarized data, graphical views, and a little bit of narrative with linked charts. So visualization was where we were trying to get to, with fully interactive reporting, on the fly, quicker to produce, real-time decision-making, KPI-focused, and mobile applications. So allowing us to do things on our mobiles. Okay, so where have we come from? In M&G, we made a cottage industry around manual report production. This was done via FRS, SmartView, and people generally ended up creating these massive Excel workbooks with lots of manual issues, error-prone, and lots of reconciliation was required because each report book was probably slightly different. And then if something new was added in, the workbooks that we had created with HS get values wouldn't automatically be updated. So we'd need to go in and manually do these things. There was a high staff turnover in report production team, and this led to loss of knowledge around the actual reports. These reports were really big, so it was really difficult to scale them. And some things, like when we were working on the workforce application, the performance was really quite slow, especially when you're drilling down on a 9,000 member dimension, which was our employee dimension. Thankfully, not all of those are our employees, but there's a lot of TBHs in our workforce side of things. The code that was used on these Excel reports was all VBA based, so there was a very high support time on this complex code used behind the scenes. They weren't really that great for servicing business queries in a timely manner, and they were out-of-date reporting to the business, so the reports were sort of slow to be generated. Hopefully you guys can't hear all the people talking around me. Sorry about that. All right, so why the inertia? The inertia, what's really broken here? So it was difficult initially for us to get the people to accept what was broken and what wasn't working well. They were all sort of caught up in their own ways of doing things. So they didn't really see any issue with the way the reporting was being done, even though there were so many advancements happening in the technological world around us. And we were trying to see if we could get things moving. So our first way in was to talk to our CFO and see if we could get him on board to actually want to change the way we do our reporting. Everyone kept saying, can't we just use what we have? But we were saying, come on guys, there's a better way to do this. So where did we want to go? What we wanted to do was we wanted to solve those process inefficiencies and make them efficient. We wanted to automate the metadata updates. So when reports were generated, we didn't want to have people continually going in and manually updating those reports. We wanted to reduce the number of recs so that effectively when you pulled out a report, you knew the numbers on the report were correct. And because our users were quite slow in the uptake, what we wanted to do was have a method of producing reports with no human intervention. This would hopefully effectively shorten the month-end window. Within M&G, though, what we had to do is we had to accept that there are cultural restraints. So what I mean by that is these guys were set on using PPTs and PDFs to do all of their reporting. And outside of finance, there was no real desire to self-serve. This is something we're still working on, and I hope you in the near future on the new version of CXO, we're going to start rolling out self-service to some of the outside areas, outside of finance. So in M&G, finance guides all things financial, which also leads to the self-service angle. So which outputs? What we wanted to produce was dynamic views to show exceptions and outliers in the data. As I said before, we wanted minimal recs to ensure that the data is correct so that people could trust the reporting that they were being given. We wanted a batch process to churn out these reports. A tool that will enable a slow drive up to a self-service model. As I was saying, the cultural constraints on the M&G side meant people are really slow on the uptake when it comes to being in a business and wanting to actually see these numbers and actually show them, view the numbers themselves. So the idea was to try and roll this out in a slow pace and get the pickup and get people sort of hyped about these reports that they were going to be receiving. So we would get them all excited about the reporting, and then we would introduce to the self-serve model. So what did we think the business wanted? They all liked their PPTs and their PDFs. They liked pretty charts too. I mean, you can go to any report pack within M&G and there's going to be a wonderful waterfall, there's going to be a donut, there's going to be all those sorts of things. They wanted commentary. They wanted to be able to add all of the commentary in on the reports wherever they could. So when you see changes in headcount, they wanted to know why, what I shall have for lunch, just in case, and what's the dimension. So these are all questions that people are going to be asking once we look out to the business. So what was the journey that we had to find the right tool? Okay, so this is quite an interesting slide for us. So what we did is we did investigations into the various tools available at the time. I think the first one we checked out was Tableau, and we initially started off with a demo version of Tableau, and we got a machine that was delivered to us where we had Tableau installed, and we were able to start trying to connect it up to our Essbase cubes. There was definitely an issue with integration with Tableau. We created the links relatively straightforward first time round, but the creation of the reports wasn't very easy. The dimensionality also didn't really work as we expected. We tried several times to get it working, but it didn't go just as expected. The graphical capability of Tableau was great, but the commentary, in our opinion, wasn't as good as things like CXO. It had multi-source connectivity, and the ease of report creation generally is quite good, but when using Excel spreadsheets, we found it quite easy to import them into Tableau. Essbase itself, which is our main source for reporting, it wasn't that easy. Moving across to Microsoft Power BI, here again, ease of integration to Essbase. Well, we discovered that there is no way of integrating it currently that I'm aware of to Essbase, even though if you look around on the internet, you will find a Microsoft document where it details supposedly how to connect to Oracle Hyperion. Upon further investigation, this was connectivity to HFM. So Essbase as a connection source at the time, it was unable to connect to. Multidimensionality, because we couldn't connect to Essbase, we said it doesn't support multidimensionality, but I believe it may connect up to SSA as cubes, but we don't use those. Graphical capability was great. Collaborative commentary, not as good as CXO. Multi-source connectivity, yes, it did it. And ease of report creation. It was pretty easy once you got your data into a spreadsheet, but no connectivity, in our opinion, to Essbase. So I'll jump across to the left to Oracle FRS. So Financial Reporting Studio, been around for a long, long time. Integration with Essbase was easy. The support of multidimensionality was there. We did not like the graphical capability. So the graphs that were available to FRS were definitely not up to scratch when compared to CXO or Power BI or Tableau. Collaborative commentary, not really easy to do. Commentary boxes could be placed in, but it just, there's all sorts of workarounds. You could put comment boxes in planning and you can link them up to to the FRS, but it just wasn't as good. Multi-source connectivity, when we got the cross there, yeah, you can potentially link multiple grids, but it just wasn't as good as the other product, CXO. And ease of report creation, we've said shocking. mainly because they just weren't as dynamic and flexible when it comes to report creation. The other three products were much more dynamic. So if you then flip back to CXO, it seems to tick all the boxes in our opinion. So it's got a great graphical ability. It's got collaborative commentary. You can email users. You can get them to comment on things. You've got multi-source connectivity. We do workforce and we report from multiple sources like a workforce cube and an ASO cube. Ease of report creation. Once your lists are defined, you can quite easily drag and drop these into new reports. So your reporting packs can be created quite quickly, and basically with the use of storyboards. The integration, once you've got the configuration tools installed, connecting up to different S-based cubes is really easy. All right, so we did a POC to start things off. There were we did actually spend quite a long time doing the POC, but this is mainly due to just slow pace on our side. So what we wanted to do pre-POC was involve key finance stakeholders in the review of all options. So we introduced everyone to all those tools I just showed you on the previous screen, and we showed them our findings. We invited them and encouraged them to join us in the journey along with those findings. So we got the teams involved. We had people working in the teams on Power BI. I had guys working on Tableau. They were all sort of working to try and see if they could generate something that would impress them and the other guys around them. When we were successful, what we would do with each of the tools is we would demo to the key stakeholders within finance. In each area, we found a champion, and this person was the person that would be working together with us on the CXO project. So once we'd ruled out the other products and we decided to look at going with CXO, we had a champion within each team, and they were there to facilitate report development. They were to be enthusiastic about things and empathetic with things. So understanding the issues within the department. These champions were quite good at understanding what was going on within their various departments. So they knew the issues that were being faced with the reports. So what we did is we had hands-on workshops with CXO, and in those we went through the capabilities of CXO. We went through all the commentary, how you would lay things out, drillability, the dynamicness of the reports. And what we'd do is it was a sort of like a media. We would send out lots of media. We'd send out links to webinars. We would arrange tailored demos of CXO to key stakeholders. And all of this was to get people enthused about the product and its forthcoming release onto finance. The idea was always to get the ear of a sponsor. We've repeated that a few times because the idea to get things moving, we had to have someone actually fully supporting us through the process. So what we faced as an issue on our side was funding challenges. Even with the relatively low cost of a POC, it was quite difficult to get people to sign up initially on our side. So we had to demonstrate a vision and a rationale behind basically wanting to go with CXO. We had to have a flawless business case, not hinging on financial benefits, we had to make the non-financial benefits compelling views. So we had to couldn't just go on, yeah, it's going to save us this X, Y, and Z. We also had to try and sell that we were going to use these reports to try and drive self-service. The idea was to change a mindset, to change the way people viewed reporting within M&G. So I don't really like this term that much, but it is true. We wanted to show them the art of the possible. We wanted to show them, the old way of reporting, the sort of backward Excel way of reporting with boring old graphs was not what they should be doing. We wanted them to move over into a new way of reporting and hopefully bring their user base along with them, the business. So we had to bring these key influencers along for the ride. Those were people like Grant, the CFO. And one of the things we did learn from this is catch him off guard. So over time, what we did is we slowly but surely sold him on the idea of CXO, and it almost became second nature for him. And then once we'd got him on board, we quite easily slipped it in that basically we were going to do the POC, and by that stage he was along for the ride and he wanted to sign up, and all the selling we had been doing had worked. So the POC approach. Initially, we do engagement. So engaged with the key finance users. The CXO, secondly, we did CXO involvement with discussions about requirements. We had to be upfront with CXO, so we knew the product could do dynamic reporting, but what we wanted was CXO to deliver some enhancements to their product, mainly around the batch scheduler. This wasn't something that was on offer, and it was something that we thought we needed before we would be able to get the users on our side to buy in to the product. CXO were very supportive of our requirements, and they did develop and deliver the batch scheduler to us in time for our go live. We also had to identify super users and report builders within the finance teams. So what we wanted to do is we wanted the users to actually own the solution. What we didn't want is us to be the guardians and the developers of every single report. It would put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We're only a small team with quite a big user base. So what we wanted to do is we get these super users and these report developers, and what they would do is they would develop the reports. The report specs, we asked these super users to get those report specs from within their areas. And what they were going to do then is they would then sit down in the training offered by our CXO, and they would build these reports from the specs as a proof of concept. We also wanted to do best practice templates used by CXO. So CXO have a whole raft of templates that they can roll out quite quickly. And what we wanted to do was leverage those and try and deliver up-to-date modern reporting delivered by our super user report developers. We also had to secure a time commitment for training and co-build activity. This was super users and report developers and CXO. I think we basically got 5 days of Jeroen from the Utrecht office, and he was the guy who trained us. One main point of contact with CXO to channel issues through. So we had one main contact, and CXO were very supportive of us throughout this entire process. So the delivery, contractuals, so M&G has a very long and drawn out contractuals process. We had to go through lots of iterations of contracts between people, and this is probably the longest part of our entire process. We decided to do remote installs on an existing server. This was to save on cost, and we thought it would be safe enough given that we had all the HyperN products split over 4 servers. So we thought what we'll do is we'll just reuse the least used server, and we'll install CXO on that one. So 5 days on site, as I mentioned, that was Jeroen. He came in and he was doing all the training for us and helped us guide through the report development phases. All the installations were done remotely. So we gave access to the CXO consultants, and they worked alongside our Windows engineers and delivered an installation that worked. The way we did things was try to minimally disrupt finance. We did first a dev installation to get everything right, even though the standard is generally to put a UAT and a prod installation in place. We went dev, UAT, and prod, and that allowed us to minimally disrupt finance. The reports were created as is, and we also did a best practice version of those reports. So we had 2 versions. Our power users tried to create a version of the report as they wanted based on their spec, but we also then went and did a best practice version of those reports so we could compare the 2. We did a demo of the POC by CXO to key stakeholders. These demos were quite frequent. As we went along, each super user would help, and they would show their teams the different reports. And this is all part of the messaging to get that message out there. We connected up to real data. So we put all of our production data back into our dev and UAT reported data. So we put this back into our dev and UAT environment so that the reports became more meaningful. A very good way to do things, just to give people real stuff to see. And then we went through a mock-up of a report automation process. This was just to get an idea of how we would do the batch scheduling of the reports. Once all of this had happened, we finally got agreement to proceed to a full implementation. So what you see here is our timeline. So It took us a long time to get up and running, but by the end of August, we delivered our POC. We then slowly went, like I said, we didn't rush into anything. So by October, we were looking at report specs and review. November, December 2017, we were doing co-build and iterative review. In Jan, after our training, we were doing solo build and review. And then January, February, we got, I think, a bit more time from Jeroen, and we did a code tidy up and final formatting. A couple of issues we faced, a few learning curves had to be overcome, and Jeroen helped us out in that. We then upgraded our software in Feb to leverage the new functionality of, I think it was 6.3.1. In the background, we also were doing things with the batch scheduler, so we were getting that up and running just so that we could, once we actually went live, we could then start delivering the reports. So went live March of this year with a manual pilot, and that was just producing a few reports and making sure that a few key users were happy with them. One of our key things to do in this whole project was to slowly bring this new reporting in. We didn't want to surprise people. We didn't want to try and lay too much on them too soon. So automation, success factors. What is a key success factor? So key relationships, pre-planning for time slots. Upfront, making sure people were available, booking long in advance as far as possible, times with the different key users. That was quite key to making this a success. Scheduling of time to build rapport with IT. So I engaged with my IT colleagues, made sure they were all on board, explained exactly what needed to happen on the installation side of things. That way we got them on board, they were accepting of what was actually going to happen, and they bought in, and they weren't too concerned about people remotely installing software on our servers. We also had to line up users, so availability of users is critical when you're trying to develop a whole new process of generating reports. So we lined them up quite far in advance. Communication, basically we send out a lot of communication, apologies. The idea was the more information you give the users, the more comfortable they get with things. It's repetition. You keep talking about things, you keep showing them things. And then experience of working with CXO. The CXO team were very helpful. In everything we ever did, they always gave their best. The guys would answer questions quite quickly. Any issues we faced, they would always spend the time. We would have webinar, we'd have WebExes whenever anything went wrong during our process, whenever we couldn't get something working. The CXO guys were immediately available. If not immediately, they would quickly schedule a call so that we could go through everything. We had a few goes at the automation. Multiple times we did the installation for the batch scheduler. This was mainly because it was a brand new product, but there again, the CXO guys were extremely helpful along the way. Right, so implementation timeline 2017, full go live with automation. So there were issues, initially there were some issues with running reports. What we had is an issue where our reports were trying to run multiple queries against our ASO cube. This would basically cause the Helios ASO cube to hang, which would then cause it to crash, and then we'd have all sorts of issues. The CXO guys signed in and fixed those issues for us. We did all the installs as enhancements. We did iterative tweaks over the course of 26th of Feb to the 24th of April. We used the dev environment to ensure minimal interference with our production users. The CXO guys, as we said, were responsive and supporting. They had good communication throughout. We did weekly calls with Edgar to take on board issues and ensure the right people were involved whenever we had certain issues. So with the S-Base issue, we had the real technical detail guys getting involved with us. On the batch scheduler, we actually dealt straightly with people like Evgeny, who had actually developed the product. So worked really well that way. So when is it ready? It's good to have a position on this because you don't always know when something's ready. You have to understand fully the outcomes that are being sought. So we definitely wanted to deliver something to the users that they would be wanting to use by the time it was ready. We didn't want to sort of impose something on them. So there was never really any pressure for us to roll this out in any mass. We didn't have a real deadline. What we were doing is we were working on a flexible go live and slowly but surely rolling things out. We had to be comfortable, and the users had to be comfortable and familiar with the tool. So what a sort of key lesson from our point of view is don't rush. Don't deliver something that's not ready. If you do that, all you're going to do is you're going to ruin the reputation of the product. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you give them a little bit, get them interested, and slowly but surely feed these reports out to the users. Phase the rollout to different teams in finance. We started with a small subset of users and then slowly expanded it. Small steps. Own it, feel comfortable before taking it wider. So we really did. We started small and worked our way bigger. That way, at least by the time we got to the main rollout, which has now occurred, everyone is very happy with what we were showing them. So keep pace to ensure that the solution maintains its relevance. So we're continually updating the reports. We're updating who they get sent to. We're continuing with our communication campaign and getting everyone on board. Right. So what we have here is just a sort of flow process of how we solve this whole issue with the reports. So the financial reporting guys would refresh the files. FP&A would run a high-level reconciliation for actuals and forecast. As you can see, there's just multiple steps on this. FSC, we updated batch names. The guys basically do some quick checks on the reports. Then what we do is we set up the batch scheduling to run these reports and send them out to the various cost center owners. Benefits of the batch scheduler. So one of our key requirements for going live with CXO was the ability to also send out these static reports in PDF. This was a great piece of software that was developed especially for us, and it provided all admin and scheduling centrally within our team. So what we do on a monthly basis, my colleague Jasmine does this, is she'll go in and update the email addresses and cost centers for the different storyboards. These will then run at, I think it's about 3 o'clock in the morning. And what they will do is each one of these reports will get generated and emailed out to the relevant person. It's 100% hands-off report generation, and it's distributed by the FP&A teams. So we get, each person owns their different set of cost centers. We send them to the FP&A teams, they review them and then send them out to the users. There's no reconciliation required because the reports have already been proven, and we do reconciliations on a monthly basis for our actuals and forecast. So we know the data that's in Helios is correct. So the report, because it's basically the same as a Smart View Retrieve, is going to be correct as well. So where did we want to go and what did we end up with? So we wanted to have charts, PDFs and PowerPoints, but we wanted to be able to email these out. We wanted automated metadata updates. This is now all taken care of by the way CXO works with its lists. We wanted to remove the requirement of users to sit down and rec data every single time they generate a report. We wanted a batch report production, no human intervention. So once the jobs are scheduled, they run without any intervention from our part. And we wanted to try and shorten the month-end window by reducing the amount of time spent generating reports. In the future, we're looking to do some more with the dynamic views of data. We're hoping to roll out direct access to a lot of the users as well, in which case we won't be then, we'll slowly but over time remove the reliance on PDF and PPT reports. We wanted to get rid of tedious manual working files converted into CXO. So there's a few files that we converted that the users were using in certain areas of our finance department. We converted these into CXO dynamic reports, and basically the users were able to get rid of the tedious manual files. So we wanted to change the nature of conversations with the business, providing insights. This is, we don't want to give them, what we're trying to do is not give them static reports, but over time work towards giving them a more dynamic view of the business, of their areas. So over time, we will generate these reports and hopefully give them directly access, and then they'll be able to self-serve, look in and see all the information. We wanted to give them confidence in the numbers, and I believe we've done this. they are all quite happy that the reports are now working correctly, that the numbers are correct, and that the reconciliations we've performed in the background carry through to these reports. Reduced production time on reports and more time for analysis, and then the workforce trackers I mentioned below. Those are the ones we've translated their tedious files into CXO reports. All right, so the right tool for the right job. So standard scheduled reports. So what we were trying to show here is the fact that there is a tool for a job, and it's not always going to be the same tool. Where it comes to reports of Hyperion S-Base, reports using the data warehouse adapter, where you want board reports, procurement MR, workforce trackers, franchise reporting, cost report, channel reporting, that's where CXO came into its own. So we used CXO mainly for its connectivity up to our S-Base cubes, but we've also bought the data warehouse adapter, which means we are able to now start using information from things like our SunGL, which is all based on SQL Server, our Salesforce application, and our FUM database. These are all things we are looking to enable over the coming months and years. Ad hoc reports, there is a place for Microsoft Power BI, PowerPoint, Tableau, but we didn't think that you could actually really use Power BI directly with S-Base. But some of our finance users do still use Power BI, and that's what happens is they generate a spreadsheet out of S-Base with SmartView, and they then load this into Power BI, and they create some visualizations, ad hoc dashboards. PowerPoint, you've got SmartView, so you can still do those bits and pieces. But what we're trying to show on this slide is effectively it's the right tool for the right job. CXO and S-Base work really well together. We've not had any experience with any of the other tools, but just S-Base mainly, and then the data warehouse adapter. Give me a second. So just a couple of pointers. Ask yourself, purpose. Ask yourself what you are trying to achieve. Who are your stakeholders and what will be useful to them? Set tangible outcomes and be realistic. First impressions count for more than you think. The scope. Stay focused on your objectives. Don't get sidetracked. Rethink your reporting to ensure you can optimize your deliverables. Start small, deliver something quickly and well. This is probably quite a agile type methodology. Then roll out further. Make sure people are happy with things. On the tools, evaluate what's out there in relation to your particular challenges. That's what we did, and we came to the conclusion that the other tools were not as good as CXO. Avoid round hole square peg. Not all tools are right for every job, so make sure you choose the correct tool for the correct job. Accept that a selection of tools is a desirable outcome. As I showed in the previous slide, sometimes Power BI is the right tool for the job, but definitely not for connecting to S-Base. Education. Bring your team along. Encourage super users to create reports and encourage business interest. The more you involve your users, the more they will want to use the tool. Set criteria for the usage of all tools so finance understand what to use and when. What we said is CXO was for our reporting out of our S-Base cube, so the profitability reporting was definitely going to be used as CXO. For all other ad hoc reporting, we said go ahead, fill your boots. You can use things like Power BI and Tableau, even though Tableau is now gone. So Power BI is their other tool that they can use. Gear up to support your user base. Keep them interested and engaged in the journey. Buy-in. Keep sponsors engaged. Show and tell along the way, even if they don't seem interested. So yeah, can't overemphasize enough communication and get people to buy in. It's so much more. It's easier to deliver things when people have bought into it. Enthuse finance. Get them to spread the word by instilling confidence. Show them how things work. Show them that the reports are correct. Give them the truth that all the reconciliations have been done. Prove that things will work, and they will then sell the job for you. Evolve the support model and ensure that users know they won't be dropped in it. Give people confidence to actually generate the reports themselves and know that you will be there to help them out if anything goes wrong. Tech. So make friends with IT during the install phase. Keep them engaged. Buy them a beer every now and then if it's needed. And then get real. Yep. It's not all things to all women or men, and that's actually okay. Sometimes CXO is not the right tool for us, but that's definitely not when it comes to the reporting that we're talking about putting into CXO. Don't overpromise. You are more likely to underdeliver. So we gave them a very clear-cut definition of what we were going to deliver, and we delivered that. It's a specific type of reporting, and the users are happy with that. Accept the personality of your business and don't push too fast. M&G is, we often talk about M&G as having the M&G way of doing things. And often what this is it's a slower sort of way of doing things. So we accepted that and we worked with it. We rolled things out at their pace and we tried not to push them too fast. And then keep in the loop. So don't stagnate, keep building and improving. Look at uses for new functionality and sell the ideas to finance and learn from what others are doing. So attend the different forums, speak to different people about how they are using CXO. So what's next? So what we're looking to do next is further use the data warehouse adapter. We are getting some sets of data for procurement, which we are going to build up in the data warehouse adapter. We're going to rebuild reporting with our upgrade. So we're in the middle of upgrading our on-premise applications from 11.1.2 to 11.1.2.4. We plan to go live with the new versions at the end of January 2019. And we will then start and embark on a journey of rebuilding all the reports off our new cubes. Over time, we're going to start rolling out the CXO reports to Singapore and Luxembourg. We've just expanded and opened a hub as part of the Brexit challenges in Luxembourg. So we've got a team that's moved out there, and we're going to soon be generating reports out of there too in euros. Consolidate reporting tools and model with the wider group. So definitely try not to roll 37 different products out. Try and minimize and keep the products to a minimal. What we're looking at doing is maybe having an MI hub with a shared service area where we can have presentational best practice, expertise, standardization, reduced duplication. It would probably work well for our users. Okay, so unfortunately, technology has got the better of me today, so I haven't been able to do a live demo. But what I've done is I've just taken a couple of screenshots of our environment and a report and the batch scheduler just to show you. So very customizable. As you can see from this screen, we've got our own layout around the back. Really looks nice. You can sort of go in. Everyone likes the landing page. Just a quick report that we've generated. So this is our home screen. Just a quick blast of numbers on the front of you. Everyone gets this when they go in, and it's just one of our many reports. And then this is a screenshot of the batch scheduler. So what you do is you add in a storyboard, and then you set up the cost center that you want it to run for. You put the recipient's email address in. This is my email address. And what you do then is you set up a date time, tick the repeat monthly box if you want, and then you can also put the format that the job needs to be sent in. And this works really well. So just a quick overview of what everything looks like. Right, Brett, that's it for me.
Yeah, thanks a ton, Simon. Guys, I did forget to mention at the beginning, there's a question box down at the bottom, so I know everybody's really on mute, but any questions that you have for Simon regarding their journey, just throw them in the little question box down there, and we'll try and get to those, right now. But I did have something, Simon. There's a couple things that kind of caught my eye as you were going through, something that I think a lot of us can relate to. One of them is that you mentioned the cultural restraints. So that is, I guess a lot of people are very well set in their ways. They've been doing things a certain way for a certain amount of time. And when you go to change that, that can be, a little disruptive. And what I wanted to ask is, since going to CXO, how has that been received by some of those that might have had some cultural restraints? Have they come around to it? What are their thoughts on it now after they, push towards CXO?
So what I'm seeing is we every now and then we're starting to get reports back from the recipients of the static report saying, oh, I like this report. Can you give me a bit more detail? So I think what we're doing is we're succeeding in that, enticing them to be more curious. So at the moment, we've had a few people coming back to us saying, "Oh, can I have access? Can I look at that?" Which at the moment we haven't been able to give them because we're a bit short on airspace licenses.
Sure.
But yeah, we're hoping to roll out some more dynamic reporting in the near future. And I think over time we're going to start giving them the ability to run these reports by themselves because they seem to be interested now.
Okay. Very nice. There is a question that's come in. You mentioned non-financial benefits. Can you elaborate on, sorry, I'm trying to read in this little box, what the non-financial benefits were?
Okay, so the non-financial benefits, I think we were talking more around the reduction in time spent on people generating masses of reports. So you could probably say it's a financial benefit if you're spending less time on it, but there were a lot of cottage industries that were going on in the different areas where people were generating report after report, and so one of the non-financial benefits was them actually stopping doing that and starting to work smarter and not have to generate so much reporting.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something we look at quite frequently because a lot of, especially when we're talking financial data, a lot of ROI is measured, right? You can have actual statistics.
Yeah.
So when you get into certain things that aren't quite so easily measurable, I guess that's something that you guys have found a little bit of, whether it be just the general reduction in the amount of time spent preparing reports, maybe there's just a better overall presentation, a better feel, or some of those things like what kind of, things that you can't really measure in numbers, things that really helped or have helped MNG as you've gone forward.
Yeah. It's quite a tough one. I mean, the presentation
Yeah.
gets made, you sort of put it together and trying to think of a non-financial benefit. Yeah, it is one of those where you effectively just trying to get people to work better, work smarter, use their time more efficiently.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's if so long as things work better, then people get less angry at their computers, and the less angry everybody is, the better off we all are, I guess. Cool. Well, I think we've definitely hit our time allotment here. So I do want to say thank you to everybody for joining us, and we can't get to a couple more questions. I don't want to go too long here. So any questions that you do have for us or for Simon, please feel free to shoot me an email. You can do that through the registration page and whatnot that you signed up for here. And I certainly want to thank you, Simon, for joining us and providing us that presentation and a little inside look into M&G's process for implementing CXO and how it's affected you. And yeah, again, thank you very much. And I hope to speak to you all again soon. And Simon, I certainly hope to speak to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Hopefully it was interesting and I didn't stumble too much.
No, everything went great. Thanks a lot, guys, and have a great day.
Cheers. Bye, Britt.